"Can I sit with you?" the billionaire asked, and every polished smile in the room suddenly turned toward the forgotten table behind the curtain. The single dad looked up from his daughter's paper napkin swan, wearing a thrift store suit that did not quite fit his shoulders and shoes that had seen too many winters. A woman in pearls whispered, "He must be one of the charity cases," and a man beside her laughed softly into his water glass. His little girl heard it, lowered her eyes, and held her plastic fork like it had become too heavy. No one in that Boston ballroom knew the man they were judging had been saving their children's foundation $5, $12, $40 at a time for nearly 5 years. By dessert, his name would appear on the giant screen, and the richest people in the room would forget how to speak. Noah Whitaker did not belong in rooms like that, or at least that was what the room seemed determined to tell him. The Hartwell Children's Foundation gala shimmered inside the Grand Essex Hotel, where golden chandeliers glowed above round tables dressed in white linen, crystal glasses, and centerpieces taller than some of the children whose photographs smiled from the donation banners near the stage. Waiters moved like shadows in black jackets. Donors leaned close over plates of salmon and asparagus, trading compliments, business cards, and soft little jokes that never had to fight through unpaid bills. Noah sat at table 19, not in the main glow, but near the service curtain where the music from the string quartet arrived softened, as though even the violins had been told to keep their distance. Beside him, 8-year-old Lily Whitaker tried to sit straight in her blue Sunday dress, the one Noah had ironed twice that morning on the kitchen table because they did not own an ironing board. She had a white ribbon in her hair and a tiny scar near her collarbone that only showed when she laughed too hard and leaned forward. Noah noticed the meal placed before her had gone lukewarm. He noticed the waiter's apology before the waiter even said it. "It's okay," Noah murmured, giving the young man a gentle nod. "We're grateful to be here." Lily looked at the room, then at him. "Daddy, are we at the wrong table?" Noah folded her napkin into a crooked bird and set it beside her plate. "No, sweetheart. Sometimes the best view is from the quiet corner." She smiled, but not all the way. That was the thing about children. They could forgive hunger, old shoes, small apartments, even birthday presents wrapped in grocery bags. But disrespect had a sound, and Lily was old enough to hear it. Across the room, Evelyn Hart stood at the head table beneath a banner bearing her family name. She was 34, graceful, famous, and lonelier than any headline had ever guessed. Cameras loved her. Boards depended on her. Strangers called her blessed. Yet under the warm lights, she felt the strange chill of being surrounded by people who admired her fortune more than her heart. A senator was speaking beside her, praising legacy, leadership, generosity, all the polished words people used when they wanted kindness to look expensive. Evelyn smiled when required, nodded when expected, and slowly pushed back her chair. She needed air. She needed silence. She needed one honest thing. That was when she saw them, a father and daughter behind the curtain, sharing a cold dinner as if it were Thanksgiving, the man bending a napkin into something beautiful just to protect a child's dignity. Evelyn watched Lily laugh softly, watched Noah lower his head as another guest passed and smirked, watched him answer humiliation with grace instead of anger. Something in her chest tightened, not with pity, but recognition. She walked away from the head table, past the sponsors, past the photographers, past Grant Mercer, her foundation's chief financial officer, who frowned as if she had stepped off a marked path. The conversation around table 19 weakened as she approached. Noah looked up, calm but cautious. Lily froze with the napkin bird in both hands. Evelyn touched the back of the empty chair across from them and spoke softly enough that only they could hear. "Can I sit with you?" Noah studied her for a breath, then stood, because respect was still respect, even when life had not returned much of it. "Of course, ma'am," he said, pulling the chair out. No one should eat alone at a table this big. Evelyn sat down, and for the first time that evening, the smile on her face was real. Evelyn had attended enough charity dinners to know when a table had been forgotten on purpose. The bread basket was nearly empty. The butter had softened into a pale square, and the little card in front of Noah did not say patron, sponsor, trustee, or founder. It simply said community guest, printed in letters so small they almost apologized for existing. Lily watched Evelyn with wide blue eyes, the way children study adults when they are deciding whether kindness is real or only dressed nicely for the evening. Evelyn lowered her purse beside the chair and rested both hands on the tablecloth. That bird is better than anything on the auction wall, she said. Lily glanced at Noah first, asking permission without speaking. Noah gave one small nod. Daddy learned it at the hospital, she said. When I got scared, he made animals out of whatever paper they gave us. Evelyn kept her expression gentle, but something behind her ribs moved. That sounds like a very good trick. Lily touched the folded wings. He made a whole zoo once. The nurse said he was going to run out of paper before I ran out of fear. Noah looked down, not embarrassed exactly, but careful. He had the face of a man who had learned to keep private things private because the world sometimes turned pain into entertainment. She had a long night, he said. Paper helped. Evelyn heard the restraint in his voice. She knew donors who gave speeches for writing a check they would never miss. This man had given a child courage one napkin at a time and acted as though it was nothing. You two came from far? She asked. Worcester, Noah answered. About 45 miles, give or take traffic. Daddy cleaned 3 air conditioning units this morning before we drove here, Lily added proudly. And he wore the blue tie because I said it made him look important. Noah smiled at his daughter, and in that smile Evelyn saw the whole architecture of sacrifice. Early mornings, late bills, quiet meals, brave jokes, and a father building warmth out of almost nothing. The tie was her decision, he said. Most good things are. Evelyn laughed softly, and the sound surprised her. It was not the polished laugh she used beside donors or cameras. It was unguarded, almost young. From across the ballroom, Grant Mercer watched with narrowed eyes. He stood near the stage with a tablet in one hand and a donor list in the other, his silver cuff links catching the light like small warnings. Grant believed in order, categories, clean lines between giver and receiver. A man in a worn suit sitting with Evelyn Hart did not fit any category he respected. At table 19, the room seemed to retreat for a moment. The string music thinned into something distant. Lily began telling Evelyn about the picture she had drawn for the foundation wall, a green heart with wings because, as she explained, hearts needed help flying sometimes. Evelyn asked questions and listened to every answer. Noah noticed that. Most adults praised children quickly and moved on. Evelyn stayed. She leaned closer. She remembered details. She spoke to Lily as if her thoughts had weight. Then Lily turned her wrist, reaching for her water glass, and the soft light revealed a faded hospital bracelet looped beside her ribbon bracelet, old plastic kept like a treasure. Evelyn saw the tiny printed phrase inside it, worn but still readable, for the child who gets tomorrow. Her breath caught, but she covered it by lifting her glass. That phrase was not on banners, brochures, or public mailers. It had been used only in private letters years ago, sent to one person whose name she had never been allowed to know. Noah noticed her pause. His eyes flicked to the bracelet, then back to her face, and for the first time that night, the calm around him tightened. Evelyn set the glass down carefully. That is a beautiful bracelet, she said. Lily smiled. Daddy says we keep it to remember that tomorrow is not promised. Noah placed his hand lightly over Lily's, not to silence her, but to steady the moment. And when we get one, he said quietly, we try not to waste it. Evelyn looked at him then, truly looked, and the noise of the ballroom felt suddenly very far away. Evelyn kept her eyes on the faded strip around Lily's wrist, but her mind had already slipped backward through years of sealed envelopes, anonymous transfers, and handwritten notes that arrived without return addresses. The foundation staff had called him donor in. He never attended luncheons, never accepted plaques, never requested a seat near influence. Once a month, sometimes twice, money arrived in modest amounts that looked almost ordinary until Evelyn noticed the pattern. Always after midnight. Always with a message for a child he would never meet. Buy her the soft blanket. Help his mother stay near the hospital. Put this toward medicine. No photograph. No signature. No tax benefit claimed. Just mercy moving through the dark like a porch light left on for strangers. Evelyn had asked about him for years. Her legal team had refused to reveal more than necessary. Privacy request, they said. Binding donor protection, they said. She had imagined an elderly widow, a retired doctor, maybe a quiet millionaire hiding from attention. She had not imagined a tired father from Worcester with rough hands, a crooked blue tie, and a daughter who still carried gratitude like a bracelet. Did the foundation help you long ago? Evelyn asked, keeping her voice calm. Noah's thumb brushed once over Lily's knuckles. They helped her when she needed a valve repair. She was 4. Lily leaned closer to Evelyn. I used to count ceiling tiles when I could not sleep. Noah gave a soft breath that was almost a laugh and almost pain. She counted everything. Tiles, nurses, cups of ice chips, the number of steps from the elevator to her room. 112, Lily said. If Daddy carried me, it was only 38 because I closed my eyes. Evelyn swallowed. Around them, silverware touched porcelain. Donors murmured about vacation homes in Nantucket, and a photographer captured smiling couples beneath the auction lights. Yet at this little table, time had changed shape. It moved slower, deeper, as if heaven itself had leaned down to listen. And you came tonight because of that? Evelyn asked. Noah looked toward the stage, where children's portraits glowed on tall screens, each face bright with the fragile courage adults often forgot to honor. I came because Lily wanted to see the place that helped keep her here, he said. And because when people do good, even from far away, a thank you should eventually find its way home. Evelyn felt that sentence settle over her like a prayer. She wanted to ask more, but Grant Mercer arrived before she could speak. His smile was smooth, practiced, and colder than the ice in the water glasses. Ms. Hart, he said, not looking at Noah. The governor's wife is waiting at the chairman's table. Evelyn did not move. She can wait a moment. Grant's gaze slid to the place card, then to Noah's jacket, then to Lily's half-finished plate. There seems to be some confusion about seating. Noah straightened, not defensive, only aware. No confusion, sir. We were placed here. This section is for invited guests with foundation credentials, Grant replied. Lily's shoulders drew inward. Evelyn's face changed, but Noah answered before she could. Then we are grateful for the mistake. Grant gave a small laugh meant for the nearby tables. Gratitude is admirable, Mr. Whitaker, but boundaries exist for a reason. Evelyn turned sharply. You know his name? Grant lifted the tablet. Community list. Low-tier access. No sponsor designation. The words did what they were meant to do. People nearby began to listen. A woman paused with her wine glass halfway raised. A man in a black tuxedo glanced over as if a stain had appeared on the carpet. Noah rose slowly, placing Lily's napkin bird beside her untouched dessert. Come on, sweetheart, he said gently. We have already received more than enough. But Evelyn saw his hand tremble once before he hid it at his side, and in that small, human motion, her suspicion became something closer to certainty. Noah reached for Lily's little denim jacket on the back of her chair, moving with the careful patience of a man who had learned that dignity could survive almost anything if it did not hurry. Lily picked up the napkin bird with both hands, her chin low, her cheeks pink with the kind of shame no child should have to carry. Evelyn stood before Noah could take a step. Her cream-colored evening dress caught the chandelier light like moonlight on a quiet harbor, and her soft blonde hair rested over one shoulder in polished waves, but there was nothing decorative in her expression now. Grant, she said, her voice gentle enough to be dangerous. You will not speak to my guests that way. Grant's smile tightened. Of course, Evelyn. I am simply protecting the foundation from uncomfortable optics. Uncomfortable for whom? She asked. For the children we serve, or for the donors who prefer not to see them? The nearby table went still. A fork rested against a plate with a small, bright sound. Grant lowered his tablet a fraction, then glanced at the faces gathering around the moment. This is not the place for a debate. No, Evelyn said. This is the place where we claim to honor compassion. Noah placed one hand lightly on Lily's shoulder. Miss Hart, it is all right. We do not want trouble. Evelyn turned to him, and her face softened as if the whole ballroom had disappeared except for the tired father and the small girl beside him. You are not trouble, Mr. Whitaker. Lily looked up at her then, and something in the child's eyes made Evelyn even more certain that the night had been waiting for this exact table, this exact insult, this exact opportunity for truth to begin breathing. Grant stepped closer, dropping his voice just enough to sound private while still letting everyone hear. Evelyn, people donate 6 figures to sit in that room. They expect a certain standard. Noah gave a faint nod, not in agreement, but in understanding. He had heard different versions of that sentence his whole life. At school offices when Lily needed extra forms. At hospital desks when insurance questions took longer than kindness. At repair jobs where clients watched his hands but never met his eyes. Then we will make room for your standard, Noah said quietly. He turned to Lily. Say thank you for dinner. Lily swallowed. Thank you. The simple courtesy landed harder than anger would have. It crossed the linen, the flowers, the crystal, and found the conscience of every person pretending not to listen. Evelyn did not blink. Please sit down, Lily. Grant inhaled sharply. Evelyn, please sit down, she repeated, this time to Noah as well. Noah hesitated. His blue tie sat slightly crooked. His cuffs were frayed. His palms showed old work, honest work, the kind no banquet ever applauded until it needed the lights fixed, the heat restored, the car started, the doors opened. Slowly, he lowered himself back into the chair. Lily followed, clutching the folded bird. The room exhaled in fragments. Grant's face reddened beneath the expensive calm he fought to keep. The chairman's introduction begins in 4 minutes, he said, and your remarks are on the teleprompter. Evelyn glanced toward the stage, where her family crest glowed above a row of smiling photographs. Then she looked back at Noah, at the old bracelet, at Lily's careful posture, at the place card that had tried to make a human being small. Change the remarks, Evelyn said. Grant froze. Excuse me. Change them. Her voice remained low, but now it carried through the air like a bell struck once in a church tower. Tonight is not about gold-level sponsors. It is not about preferred seating. It is not about names engraved on marble. Grant opened his mouth, but she lifted one hand, graceful and final. Have accounting prepare the anonymous donor records for the pediatric valve program. Noah's head turned slightly. It was almost nothing, but Evelyn saw it. A flicker, a guarded breath. A man standing at the edge of a secret he had never meant to display. Those records are sealed, Grant said. Then unseal only what the law allows, Evelyn replied. Amounts, dates, purpose notes, no private data until consent is given. Grant's eyes moved to Noah, and for the first time his confidence lost its shine. The orchestra paused between songs. Beyond the tall windows, Boston glimmered in silver and blue, the city lights trembling over wet pavement after a passing evening rain. Inside, beneath the flowers and fine glass, a quieter weather gathered. Evelyn sat again at table 19, not at the head of the room, not beside Power, not beneath her name. She sat across from Noah Whitaker and his daughter, and the richest conversation of the night began without anyone raising a glass. At table 19, the music returned in a softer arrangement, a piano melody drifting beneath the ceiling like candle smoke, but no one at that corner truly heard it anymore. Evelyn had taken the chair across from Noah, as if she had chosen a pew instead of a place setting, and the shift unsettled every polished face nearby. Lily kept the napkin bird beside her plate, smoothing one wing with her fingertip whenever the silence felt too large. Noah watched Evelyn with quiet caution, not fear, not suspicion, but the careful respect of a man who knew powerful people could be kind for 1 minute and forget you the next. You do not have to do this, he said. Evelyn studied the frayed edge of his cuff, then the steady way he kept his body angled toward Lily, shielding her from stares without making a show of it. I think I do, she replied. Not for a program, not for a speech, for the kind of child this night is supposed to honor. Lily lifted her gaze. Am I in trouble? Noah answered before Evelyn could. No, sweetheart. You are safe. Evelyn leaned forward, her voice warm enough to wrap around the child like a blanket. You are not in trouble, Lily. Sometimes grown-ups forget what matters, and children help them remember. Across the ballroom, Grant moved with stiff precision toward the technical table, speaking in low tones to a young coordinator named Marissa, whose hands hovered above a laptop linked to the giant screen. Grant's jaw worked as he whispered, only the approved deck. Nothing else. Marissa looked past him toward Evelyn. She requested the records. She requested a legal problem, Grant said. Do you want your name on it? Marissa's face paled, but she did not close the folder. She had worked at the foundation for 3 years. She had seen mothers sleep in vinyl chairs, fathers count vending machine quarters, nurses cry quietly in break rooms after good news and bad. She also knew the anonymous donor file. Everyone in the back office knew it. Small gifts, steady notes, no ceremony. The kind of giving that did not photograph well, but kept lights on in rooms where hope had to stay awake all night. The chairman stepped onto the stage, tapped the microphone, and welcomed the room back from dinner. Applause rose, expensive and obedient. Evelyn remained seated. Grant turned, searching for her with urgent eyes, but she did not return to the head table. A few guests began whispering again, confused by the empty chair beneath her name. The chairman smiled through it, reading from the teleprompter about legacy and leadership, about partners whose generosity changed lives. Noah lowered his eyes. "They do good work," he said, almost to himself, even when the room gets confused. Evelyn heard no bitterness in him. That troubled her more than anger would have. Anger would have been easy to answer. Grace asked for honesty. "Mr. Whitaker," she said softly, "have you ever donated to Hartwell?" Lily looked at her father, suddenly alert. Noah took a slow breath. "A little, when I could." "Under your own name?" Evelyn asked. He gave the faintest smile, tired and tender. "Names are useful for mailboxes and school forms. They are not always needed for kindness." Evelyn felt her throat tighten. On stage, the chairman introduced Grant Mercer for the financial transparency segment, and the room clapped again. Grant walked up with his tablet, his tuxedo perfect, his smile restored for the audience. "Tonight," he began, "we celebrate those whose substantial contributions make our mission possible." At the technical table, Marissa's finger hovered over two files, the polished sponsor slideshow and the donor history Evelyn had requested. She looked once toward table 19. Lily was holding her father's hand. Evelyn was watching the stage with calm certainty. Noah was sitting still, as if he had already forgiven whatever the room was about to do. Marissa chose the second file. The first slide flickered. Grant stopped speaking. The giant screen behind him faded from gold logos into a simple white page titled Pediatric Valve Program, Anonymous, Giving History. A murmur passed through the ballroom. Noah closed his eyes for one brief second, and Evelyn knew the secret had begun to step into the light. The white page on the giant screen was so plain that it looked almost sacred against the velvet curtains and gold-lit flowers. No sponsor logos. No smiling corporate portraits. No engraved names. Just a column of dates, amounts, and short purpose notes that appeared one after another while the ballroom slowly forgot its applause. January 7th, $5 for warm socks in recovery. February 2nd, $12 for a mother's parking pass. March 19th, $40 toward medicine not covered by insurance. April 23rd, $18 for the boy who loves baseball cards. The numbers were small, almost fragile, and that made them heavier than any ceremonial check the room had ever seen. Grant stood beneath the screen with the microphone held near his chest, his prepared confidence draining out of him one quiet line at a time. "There has been a technical mistake," he said, but his voice had lost its shine. No one moved. Evelyn rose from table 19, not quickly, not dramatically, but with the calm of a woman finally stepping into the truth her own foundation had been built to protect. Her cream dress moved softly as she crossed the space between tables, and the crowd parted for her without understanding why. Noah remained seated, his eyes lowered, his hand covering Lily's as if he could shield her from being seen too clearly. Lily whispered, "Daddy, is that us?" Noah answered with tenderness so low it barely crossed the table. "Some of it, sweetheart. Not all of it." Evelyn reached the stage steps and turned toward Marissa at the technical table. "Continue." Grant leaned toward her. "Evelyn, this is inappropriate. These are private contributions." "Then why do they feel more honorable than everything we have announced tonight?" she asked. A soft stir moved through the donors. The next slide appeared. Anonymous donor in, 5-year giving pattern. Total number of children assisted through pooled contributions, 27. Evelyn's lips parted, but no words came. 27 children. 27 families who had never known that a man repairing air conditioners, driving a used pickup truck, and counting grocery money had helped keep their hope alive. The screen changed again, this time showing notes attached to late-night transfers. For the child whose father looked tired in the waiting room. For the girl with the purple blanket. For the family that needs gas money to get home. Please do not send a thank you letter. Please use the paper and postage for someone else. A woman near the front covered her mouth. A man who had smirked earlier stared at his polished shoes. The senator's wife, waiting at the chairman's table, stopped whispering and looked toward Lily with wet eyes. Noah stood slowly, because staying seated now felt impossible. He smoothed the front of his old jacket, then bent toward his daughter. We may need to go soon. Lily shook her head. But they are talking about you. No, he said softly. They are talking about what kindness can do when nobody claps for it. Evelyn heard him from the aisle. That sentence traveled through her like light through stained glass, coloring every old assumption she had carried about charity, power, and worth. Grant tried one last time to reclaim the room. Ladies and gentlemen, while these small gifts are touching, tonight's operations depend on significant funding. We must keep perspective. The word small landed badly. It landed on every parent who had ever slept in a hospital chair. It landed on every nurse who had stretched one donated dollar into comfort. It landed on Lily's hospital bracelet, glowing faintly under the chandelier like proof that tomorrow sometimes came wrapped in plastic. Evelyn turned to Grant, her beautiful face composed but wounded by his blindness. Perspective, she repeated. Yes, let us have some. She nodded to Marissa. The final protected slide opened, revealing only what the donor agreement allowed before consent. Initials, city, and source bank branch. N.W. Worcester, Massachusetts. Monthly manual deposit. The room shifted toward Noah as if drawn by gravity. Grant looked at the initials, then at the guest list on his tablet, then back at Noah Whitaker. His mouth opened, but no polished sentence came out. Lily squeezed her father's fingers. Noah did not bow his head this time. He looked at the screen, then at Evelyn, and in his quiet eyes there was no pride, no demand, no revenge. Only a weary grace that made the entire ballroom feel smaller than one honest act. For several seconds, the Grand Essex Ballroom held a silence so complete that even the piano player let his hands rest above the keys without touching them. Noah Whitaker stood beside table 19 with Lily's small hand inside his own, and the glow from the screen painted his worn jacket in pale white light. Evelyn Hart remained near the stage, stunning beneath the chandeliers, her soft blonde waves framing a face that no longer looked like a billionaire's portrait in a magazine, but like a woman who had just discovered that grace had been sitting behind the service curtain all evening. Grant Mercer lowered the microphone. The little sound it made against his palm seemed too loud. Mr. Whitaker, Evelyn said, and her voice carried without effort. May I ask you something? Noah gave a slow nod. Yes, ma'am. Were you donor in? Lily looked from Evelyn to her father. The guests turned with her. Noah's eyes moved once to the hospital bracelet on his daughter's wrist, then to the tall screen where 5 years of quiet offerings waited in plain sight. I was one of many, he said. Grant gave a strained breath. That is not an answer. Noah turned to him, not sharply, not proudly, only with the kind of steadiness that made arrogance feel noisy. It is the truest answer I have. The room absorbed that. Evelyn stepped down from the stage and walked back toward him through a pathway of people who suddenly seemed unsure where to put their hands, their eyes, their expensive certainty. Why did you hide it? She asked softly. Noah brushed his thumb over Lily's fingers. Because the help was not about me. But you gave for 5 years, Evelyn said. After your daughter's surgery. After her second chance, Noah corrected gently. Lily's eyes filled, though she tried to be brave. Noah noticed and crouched beside her, lowering his voice. You remember what we said after the hospital? Lily nodded. When you get tomorrow, share it. A quiet ache passed through the ballroom. It moved past the white roses, past the champagne glasses, past the donor plaques waiting to be auctioned, and settled somewhere no one could decorate. Noah stood again. The foundation helped Lily breathe easier. It helped me sleep without listening for every strange sound from her room. It gave us mornings. So when I had $5 left after groceries, I sent 5. When a customer paid cash for an emergency repair, I sent 12. When overtime came through, I sent 40. It was not much, but it was something. Evelyn's eyes shone. It was 27 children. Noah lowered his gaze, as if the number humbled him more than it honored him. Then God stretched it farther than I could. Grant looked toward the chairman, then the trustees, searching for rescue inside rules and procedure, but no one rescued him. The same people who had trusted his polished reports now watched him as though they had finally heard the emptiness underneath. Mr. Whitaker, Grant said, forcing formality into a voice that had begun to crack. I owe you an apology for the misunderstanding. Noah shook his head once. No, sir. You owe my daughter an apology for making her feel small in a room built for children like her. Grant froze. Lily stared at her shoes. Evelyn turned to Grant, her expression calm but absolute. The request did not need repeating. Grant faced the child, and for once no title protected him. "Lily," he said, each word difficult, "I am sorry. You deserved better from me tonight." Lily looked up at Noah. He nodded, leaving the choice with her. She held the napkin bird close to her chest. "Thank you," she said quietly. Not forgiveness, not anger, just a child's honest answer. That was enough to break the room open. Somewhere near the front, an older woman began to clap once, slowly, with trembling hands. Another joint. Then a nurse from one of the foundation videos stood near the side wall and clapped too. The sound spread, not loud at first, but real, rising from respect rather than performance. Noah looked uncomfortable, almost sorrowful, as if applause was a coat that did not fit him. Evelyn saw that and lifted her hand, asking the room for quiet. The clapping faded. She came to stand before him and Lily, close enough now that her perfume was only a faint trace of lavender and rain, delicate against the warm scent of candles and dinner bread. "Noah," she said, using his first name for the first time, "I am sorry it took a screen for this room to see you." He answered with the same gentle dignity that had carried him through every insult of the night. Maybe sometimes people need light behind the truth before they recognize it. Evelyn looked at Lily, then at the small paper bird in her hands. "Would you both sit with me at the front table?" Noah glanced toward the shining place beneath Evelyn's family name, then back to the quiet corner where the night had begun. "Only if table 19 comes with us," he said. Evelyn did not understand at first. Then Lily lifted the napkin bird. "He means nobody gets left behind." Evelyn smiled through tears she no longer tried to hide. "Then nobody gets left behind." The staff did not know what to do at first, because galas were built on assigned seats, printed cards, and quiet obedience to money. Then Evelyn Hart walked to table 19 herself, lifted Lily's folded bird with both hands as if it were made of crystal, and carried it toward the front of the ballroom. Noah followed with Lily beside him, not triumphant, not smiling for attention, but moving with the humble steadiness of a father who had spent years walking hospital corridors at midnight and grocery aisles with a calculator in his head. The guests rose as they passed. Some stood quickly, ashamed to remain seated. Others stood slowly, understanding arriving late, but arriving all the same. At the chairman's table, Evelyn removed the polished centerpiece and placed the little napkin bird in its spot beneath her family name. The white linen, the silver chargers, the tall candles, the expensive flowers, all of it suddenly seemed less beautiful than that crooked paper shape made by tired hands for a frightened child. Lily stared at it, then whispered, "Daddy, it looks important now." Noah bent close. "It was important when you were holding it." Evelyn heard him, and the sentence nearly broke her composure. She turned to the microphone, but for a moment she did not speak. Beyond the windows, Boston glittered after the rain, streets shining like ribbons of black glass, headlights moving below like slow golden fireflies. Inside, the chandeliers glowed over hundreds of people who had come to be thanked and instead found themselves being taught. "When my grandfather started this foundation," Evelyn said at last, "he believed charity was not the distance between the powerful and the needy. He believed it was the bridge between two human beings who both understand suffering." Grant stood off to the side, pale and silent, his tablet hanging uselessly at his hip. Evelyn looked toward Noah and Lily. "Tonight, I almost forgot that. We built a room around generosity, then allowed pride to decide who looked worthy enough to belong in it." No one shifted. No one coughed. Even the waiters along the wall stood still. Mr. Noah Whitaker did not give because someone photographed him. He did not give because a plaque would carry his name. He gave $5 when $5 mattered. He gave $12 when $12 could have bought his daughter a better lunch. He gave $40 when $40 might have filled his gas tank. And because of those gifts, 27 children received help. The number moved through the room again, deeper this time. Evelyn's voice softened. "So here is what we will do. Before anyone bids on vacations, watches, or private dinners, this foundation will create the Tomorrow Fund, built for families who fall between forms, policies, and pride. Every gift under $100 will be matched by my family trust at 1,000 times its amount for the next year." A gasp rose, then another. Grant looked up sharply. The chairman gripped the back of his chair. Noah's eyes widened. And Lily whispered, 1,000 times? Evelyn smiled at her. That means your father's $5 becomes $5,000 for another child. Lily looked at Noah as if the world had just turned kinder in front of her. Daddy, that is a lot of tomorrows. Noah tried to answer, but his throat tightened. For once, the man who always found a gentle word had none. Evelyn stepped down from the small platform and returned the microphone to him, offering it without pressure. Noah hesitated. The ballroom waited. He took it with both hands, as though it were heavier than any tool he had carried. I am not a speaker, he said. I fix things when they stop working. Sometimes that is a furnace. Sometimes that is a window unit. Sometimes it is just my daughter's courage on a hard day. A soft laugh trembled through the room, warm and respectful. Noah looked at Lily, then at the faces before him. But I know this. Nobody in a hospital waiting room cares who has the better table. They care whether their child will open their eyes, whether the bill will crush them, whether morning will come with mercy. If you can help, help quietly if you must. Help loudly if you can. But do not wait until you feel rich enough to be kind. The silence afterward was not empty. It was full, reverent, alive. Then Lily reached for Evelyn's hand with one hand and her father's with the other, joining them across the space where pride had once stood. Evelyn looked down at the child's small fingers, then at Noah's work-worn hand beside hers. And for the first time in years, the billionaire did not feel surrounded by people. She felt accompanied. By the time the final pledge card was collected, the Grand Essex Ballroom no longer felt like a room divided by status. It felt like a chapel after a confession, softened by truth, humbled by grace, and strangely lighter because someone poor had reminded the wealthy what generosity was supposed to mean. The Tomorrow Fund reached more than $3 million before midnight, not because people wanted applause, but because Noah Whitaker had made $5 feel holy. Guests who had avoided table 19 earlier now approached slowly, not with grand speeches, but with lowered voices and careful eyes. A surgeon from Boston Children's shook Noah's hand and said his small gifts had helped pay for transportation on nights when families had no way home. A mother in a navy dress told Lily that her son had slept under one of the blankets Noah's note had paid for. Lily listened with both hands over her heart, as if every story was a firefly landing there. Noah thanked each person quietly, always shifting the praise away from himself. The foundation did the work, he said. I just passed along what I could. But Evelyn knew better now. She knew that humility could be another kind of strength, and that some people carried light so gently the world mistook them for shadows. Near the stage, Grant Mercer stood alone. His apology to Lily had not repaired everything, but it had opened the first honest door in him. Before leaving, he walked to Noah and held out a sealed envelope. My resignation, he said. Evelyn watched without interrupting. Noah looked at the envelope, then at the man. That is between you and Miss Hart. Grant swallowed. I was wrong about you. Noah nodded once. Then be right about the next person. No applause followed that sentence. It did not need any. Outside, after the gala ended, the rain had stopped completely. The Boston sidewalk shone under street lamps, and the night air smelled of wet stone, coffee carts, and the cold Atlantic wind drifting between tall buildings. Noah helped Lily into her denim jacket while Evelyn stood beside them beneath the hotel awning. No cameras near her, no assistants, no polished circle of influence. Just a woman, a father, and a child who had survived enough to know when kindness was real. Lily held the napkin bird, now carefully tucked inside a clear display box Evelyn had found from the auction table. Will the bird stay at the foundation? She asked. Evelyn knelt so they were eye to eye. Only if you allow it. Lily thought hard. Then put it where scared kids can see it. Evelyn smiled. I promise. Noah looked at her then, and the city seemed to grow quiet around them. You gave my daughter a beautiful memory tonight, he said. Evelyn shook her head softly. Noah, you gave me back the reason I started. For a moment, neither of them moved. There was no grand declaration, no fairy tale music, no sudden promise made too quickly under golden lights. There was only respect, steady and warm, beginning exactly where pride had ended. A Blacktown car waited at the curb, but Evelyn did not step toward it. Lily, she said, would you and your father like to visit the foundation next week? I could show you where the Tomorrow Fund will begin. Lily looked up at Noah, hopeful but polite. Noah smiled, tired and tender. Next Saturday, after I finished 2 service calls. Evelyn laughed softly. Then next Saturday, after 2 service calls. Months later, a small glass case appeared in the lobby of the Hartwell Children's Foundation. Inside it rested one crooked napkin bird, folded at a forgotten table by a single father who had never wanted recognition. Beneath it, a simple brass plate read, "When you get tomorrow, share it." Families paused there every day. Children pointed at it. Parents cried beside it. And sometimes, on quiet Saturday afternoons, Evelyn could be seen walking through that lobby with Noah and Lily, not as a billionaire rescuing anyone, and not as a man finally proven worthy, but as 3 people learning that love often begins with dignity, grows through grace, and becomes a second chance when someone brave enough chooses to sit where the world forgot to look.